lighting of the area around Ottawa. We've had an observing site west of Ottawa near a place called Shirley's Bay for a number of years. It started in the 1960s, late 1960s, when we got access to Defense Research Board property. And that's where we did a lot of our media observing for quite a few years, when some of a lot of members here cut their teeth in observing, actually learning what a star looked like, as well as when you are out media observing with a lot of friends, you end up learning an awful lot of stuff associated with astronomy and not associated with astronomy. As you can appreciate, during the late 60s, a lot of social politics things were discussed at the same time. Well, we essentially abandoned that site as Ottawa grew and the suburbs around Ottawa grew and got brighter. Another reason for abandoning it was that we built an observatory, what we call North Mountain Observatory at the time. It was one of the largest amateur installations in Canada with a huge 16-inch F5 telescope. We lost that. We had to move away from that site because of the growth of Ottawa and also some neighbors that believed that cats needed lights at night to see. We moved west of Ottawa, outside beyond a little town called Abatement, and we're located now here in the Military Tale Museum, west of Ottawa. And even there, we see the lights of the surrounding towns, and especially Ottawa, far over to the west. It's not that bad in the surrounding towns, but it's getting worse. We just can't afford to move anymore. You end up having to move so far that you are really limiting the access to the observatory because of travel. And it gets to the point you have to determine whether you want to build closer to the city and forgo dark skies just to improve usability of this facility, or you move further out and recognize that only the rich people with cars will be able to travel there. And even then, we're short rare periods of time because it's rather tiring to drive up from sub-zero weather, in fact, minus 30 weather to go observing and turn around an hour later to get back in because you have to go to work the next day. What I'm going to talk about today is just essentially what we did in Ottawa, a bit of the thought process and what work we went through to get what successes we feel we have attained. I'll be talking briefly about the goal definition, a bit about the presentation development, because we give presentations to civic officials. A bit about, show some of the slides we prepared, and then talk a little bit about the successes. The goal definition is rather important. Most people are doing public awareness, and this means you can go to shopping centers, have pretty slides, and you attract people's attention, and show that what light pollution really is all about. The other way of going about it is abatement, not worrying about advertising or making people aware of it, the general public aware of it, but actually going to try to get the lights fixed, or at least to curtail the increase in light pollution. And there's a number of, there's a subsets to that, to the abatement effort. That is, do you work on isolated lights, do you look at the new housing and industrial developments, or do you actually try to impact policy? And depending upon how what method you use or what philosophy you use, that impacts directly your scope and schedule the amount of work you want to do. For example, for the general presentations, you just go whenever you can get an audience. That's wonderful if people want to listen to you. Astronomy Day is a great place to put up some of the displays. But for abatement, you're working to a schedule, and it's a rather gruesome schedule to move. Because if you think about, even if you're looking at policy, which my goodness is decades, once policies are established, they remain in place for decades until somebody has to come to change them again. Well, to get impact on policy, you have to really get the attention of a lot of people. And usually that means getting things done within an order of a month, perhaps, to give a presentation to the municipality so they're aware of you. And then, because perhaps later on that year or the next year they'd be reviewing policy, that is having public hearings on the policy. And that policy really won't show its mettle until the next century. So if you want to impact things on a policy level in the next century, you literally have to get your presentations ready and try to get meetings with municipal officials within orders of months. And it just happened that in Ottawa, last year, this year, and next year are the crucial times when the policies are being reviewed for the municipalities, the regional, Regional Municipality of Ottawa, Carleton, and also the Ministry of Transport of Ontario. So we had to get off our butt and get things done very, very quickly. Well, Ottawa has decided to take rather a different route than I suppose a lot of centres have and a lot of amateurs have. We've taken the abatement route. And when you go to abatement, you're trying to reduce something that is dear to us, and that is the dark sky. But there's two ways of doing it. If you're a professional astronomer or you're a very, very serious amateur astronomer, you would probably be able to make use of narrowband filters to cut out the sodium lines for low-pressure sodium light. Unfortunately, low-pressure sodium light is very difficult to control because the light element is very, very large. Instead, if going advertising or trying to promote low-pressure sodium light, we've actually been going the way everybody, municipalities are going. They're not looking at low-pressure sodium, they're looking at high-pressure sodium and metal halide lights. And if you're not sure about some of the terms of the different types, I'm not going to go into it here, but the display from Edmonton, I think it is, it shows this very, very well. Go to the display. So when we went out, we're looking for shielding, not specifically the bulb, because it seems like the municipalities for color rendering will be using high-pressure sodium and metal halide to get great color, very bright. But also, because the element is so small, it allows you to shield things very, very easily, and that's why we've gone to shielding high-pressure sodium lamps. The other point is that we're used to, when you read literature on light pollution, the Sky and Telescope Astronomy Magazine or the International Dark Sky Association, they're essentially preaching to the converted. And when you go to talk to municipalities, you're not. In fact, if anything, they'd rather just not do anything because that's safe. So you're not talking to the converted anymore. You have to convince the municipal officials to change their lighting practice, and that's not easy because status quo usually has the greatest leadership, of course. And to be able to do this requires concrete, factual, accurate information that is given in a way that the engineers can understand, appreciate, and apply. And the road to success is what is your strategy? Well, we pick abatement. And what are the constraints the engineers work under that? Because you're essentially talking to an audience, you have to understand your audience. Engineers, the lighting engineer could in fact just be a technologist who really doesn't know that much about lighting, except he's got a telephone number for the people that sell the lights, and he just orders, the lighting engineer orders what he ordered last year. And so that's a constraint the engineers are under. First of all, lack of information. They'd rather hire a consultant once every 20 years to make sure they're on track, rather than doing actual calculations. The lighting companies will provide that information. They rely upon the lighting companies. The lighting companies will tell them what they want to hear. You have to know why lights are installed, so you don't start going barking up the wrong tree. If you tell them to remove lights, they know full well lights are there for safety, and citizens want safety, so you're going to start in a no-go position if you try to get them to remove the lights. Why are the present design of lights specified? Usually because of inertia. But once you understand that, then you really, it's a little easier to formulate your presentation so that you can encourage them to actually change the way they're doing things. Well, to get all this done, needs a lot of work. And there's 3 bits of work: research and administration, and also field work, which is on the next overhead. You have to be truthful, not biased, and that's very difficult for us who are already converted. We think it's great to have a dark sky. You're talking to people that think the dark sky is totally useless. And really, it's nice to see the city from 100 miles away. So recognize that. Don't tell them things that they know are wrong. The general public does not want a dark sky. They don't care. They never look up most of the time. Most people work during the day and they go home at night, and that's it. Become more knowledgeable than the municipal engineers. That's not easy, but it's not entirely impossible. Municipal engineers have a lot of things on their plate. All you want to be is a specialist. That's a lot easier than being a jack of all trades. Information is available. Illumination Engineering Society documents, nice handbook, about $300. You get information when you can, because municipal officials are going to start quoting that, and you have to have responses to their questions or their statements. Usually they haven't read the document either. It's hearsay. So if you've read it, you can then quote, oh no, section such and such says actually it really alludes to such and such. And then the respect for you increases. NILPA, New England Light Pollution Abatement Group literature is really good. Factual, they actually have got consultant studies, at least from San Diego. I found that very useful to go through. Municipal bylaws usually have the core of light pollution abatement in it. You just have to alert it to the engineer saying, well, in the municipal bylaws it says this. And then they haven't read the bylaws either. So again, you're giving them information that they feel they should know anyway. So you're their best friend. Organize the information in clear, non-technical format. They're engineers, yes, but they graduated from university 15 years ago, and many engineers that have been out that long are in management. And that's where they'll remain. Use figures, not equations, and also the information you're looking for is a cost information, supplier information, delivery information on the particular lights you would like them to have, and compare that with the lights they are using. So you have to know what the municipality is using. You have to phone around, we've got to get this sort of information. That's a lot of phone calls, a lot of faxes, and a lot of visits. But that's no good unless you're going to tell somebody. And that requires somebody who's very good at administration and someone who understands administrators, because you're trying to get their ear. And the administration side is to develop high-level contacts. The mayor, don't talk to your reeve or alderman. That's no good. You want to go right to the mayor. If anything, some of the aldermen are actually thorns in the side of the mayor. And if you go to the alderman, then right away you're starting 3 steps back. You've got to develop technical and administrative credibility. When you start dealing with these professionals, you have to have a professional air about you. Things have to be right. You have to spend that extra $30 or $40 to get really good quality printed material. Don't chicken scratch it. Don't have it from dot matrix printer. It's going to be a laser print, nice font and all this, because that's what they're used to getting. Develop a constructive manner in terms of we want to help you. And it takes quite a personality. I personally don't have it, but in Ottawa we have Arnie Weeks, part of our committee, and he has it. He's very good at getting people's ears and making them feel as though we can really help them. Arranging for a meeting can probably take about 2 months. Phone calls back and forth, a lot of voicemail, a lot of faxes that don't get returned because you got to the wrong person, and so forth. But it's very important to get that first meeting. Once you do, we created the agenda so that we kept control of the meeting. So when somebody started waxing poetic, we're able to draw them back onto the agenda. And also, administration also means you have to keep minutes. Minutes are circulated, action items are taken with dates on them. Again, it's to improve the professionalism of the meeting. Field work, this is another one which is very important. That is to find out what projects are under consideration. Because if you have a project, then you've got a deadline. And also the administration, the municipal officials know you have a deadline. If you want to talk about certain development going in, 500 houses, 3 phases, and it's going in 2 years' time, you want to impact the lighting there, then they understand that there's a deadline. You don't want to be pushed around for 8 months. Or local examples of desirable lighting, because no good bringing and parachuting in a design that's never been used in your municipality. They don't know, even the people that maintain them don't understand the design. You want to pick the ones that they already have installed, invariably somewhere they've got these sharp cutoff lighting, as I'll describe later. You get a picture of it, say where it is, and they know, okay, we've already bought it, so it's not that bad. Who and which department is responsible for the lighting? You want them at that meeting, even if the mayor is there. You want that person. You don't want secondhand information filtering down, because invariably the person that filters it down is imposing their bias on the information to this poor person. Then follow up on the action items for meetings. When it comes to the research and the administration side, too busy getting more meetings set up to impact more people. So you need some people running around touching base on all these little action items. Check on proper implementation of policy. It's one thing if the municipal officials say something, but they don't necessarily do it. So when they don't do it, as we found out in Ottawa, you then talk to the number 1 man or number 2 person in the regional municipality or actually National Capital Commission saying, you said you're going to do such and such, why are you putting these lights in? And within, I guess, 3 hours, we get a fax saying, will you please come and meet with us and tell us what you would like. Simply by going above everybody's heads. Develop a file on dark sky friendly products simply because they're the ones that want it. For example, pedestrian lighting is very important now, so it's good if you also have in your back pocket. They ask, well, Cobra lights, they are good for pedestrian lighting. You can bring this right out and say, actually, it isn't, but these products are. These products are cheaper than the Cobras. Then they're very happy because that means they'll do their job on their budget. And engineers get a pat on the back when they do that. Well, that's a lot of work, and you need the resources to do that. So we had to create a bit of a budget. In fact, in Ottawa alone, we've assigned $700 for this in 1 year. That's an awful lot for most centers, but you could probably double it up but because we're dealing with a number of cities, a number of towns, a number of layers of government. Meaning telephone, computer, and especially fax equipment. None of this letter stuff. It's got to be faxed. You want it there within a few minutes after you've had a phone call with somebody. Print and duplicate reports. You want them to be quality stuff. You don't want to just sort of just step them off. They have to be very high quality because they're used to getting consultant reports. You have to be of that caliber, even though you're not getting paid for it. Travel to meetings and to development sites to have concrete information as to what that site looks like. Have they actually started to break ground? It's really embarrassing going and wanting them to put in lights because they're going to save by being able to take out a few installations. And then you go and then they say, I'm sorry, but we've already cast the footings. They can't change the spacing on the lights anymore. So you have to have up-to-date information on what's going on in those development sites. Activities for people on the committee would be prepare slides and overheads. That's no mean feat. Write the information reports, essentially distilling the research information, putting it in writing. Attend presentations, which unfortunately are not at your leisure. You have to take time off work. You have to take mornings off work, several of them for one of the meetings. Small towns aren't so bad because their council usually meets in the evening anyway. They're volunteer. But for civic officials, cities, essentially they're 9 to 5 people. If they want a meeting at 9, you go out at 9 and you essentially take a holiday for half a day. And that comes out, and unless you have a huge budget, usually that'll come out of your personal pocket. Following up on action items, again, and review the progress that has or has not been made. If you disappear, they'll forget about you. If you don't disappear, then, and you're very constructive and helpful, then they'll see you as their best friend. To try to manage all that, we have a bit of a committee structure. You have a chair and also a projects coordinator because we've got a lot of projects going on in Ottawa and we're all trying to stomp out, or at least mold. So you have a chair and a projects coordinator and they get their heads together to try to sort of really what the strategy is, not just overall, but for every single project. Who do we talk to? How do we get by? Usually developers for small towns, they rule. The municipality, the town officials can say, we want this, and the developers turn their back and do whatever they want. And the only way to get around that is to try to figure out how we can make it really make the developers win in the situation. We have the Palladium, which is this structure that's going out west of Ottawa, and they have, I think it was 11 lights shooting up in the sky to illuminate already illuminated sign. And the problem was that they're strapped for, they don't have too much cash right now. And so the idea was that, why don't they just delay putting those lights in and put the lights, say, somewhere, the money somewhere else, maybe come up and put the lights in a little later. And that actually got their ear because that meant they saved about $14,000 on construction. And yes, we'll get around to it maybe in 2-3 years, but by that time, hopefully, we'll have affected the policy that they can. So we have to set up a strategy to try to look at each one of these projects individually. Arrange and schedule meetings, prepare and deliver presentations because you're going to be talking to the mayor, or we're talking to the mayor or the chair of some of these groups, and they don't want to have somebody who's almost virtually off the street. We really make a lot of use of the term Royal Astronomical Society of Canada. In fact, I must confess that we say Royal Astronomical Society of Canada, Ottawa. So I'm afraid, I'm sorry, Doug, but some places they think I'm the president. Area representatives, again, similar to what I said before, a number of them scattered around in various municipalities or towns just to keep track of things, aware of the lighting projects, and so forth. And they also attend the meetings because they'll be talking, once you've established contact with municipal officials, they're the ones that carry on the communication. Well, who is this audience you're talking to anyway? Who do you want to talk to? Well, there are two different levels or terms that you can get to. One is the intermediate term, the other is the long term. Municipal officials are great, except they don't have much authority in the long term. They select the luminaires or lights, luminaires of jargon in the industry. They develop the schedule for the installations. They have technical input to policy. And the politicians, they don't necessarily create the policy, but they vote on it. And they make the budget, usually less every year. So the engineers have to do more for less. And they rely on the engineers for advice. Again, the nice thing about the engineers is very practical. They will do their best to stay within their budget, but they're easily overruled by aesthetics. Somebody comes along and says, but I like those lights. And so forth. All the engineering is out the window, and suddenly the engineers now have to pay more to manage those lights, put those lights up. When it comes to the politicians, they react to media. Light equals safety. Doesn't matter where it goes. And also lights make things beautiful. So, and once you start talking to the politicians, you're in pure aesthetics and emotion. Engineers are much more dry than that, and I find it much more pleasant talking to engineers than to politicians. However, if you have a good presentation and you have a good rapport with the politicians, things work out very, very well. The sort of presentation breakdown we give people, and this presentation lasts actually about 20 minutes, is who are you? They don't know you from Adam. The RASC, again, blow it up. Who the Ottawa, in our case, who the Ottawa Centre is. What is the Light Pollution Committee? You don't say we're a bunch of amateur astronomers in Ottawa or whatever town. You say you are a part of a national program. And they say, ooh, national, my goodness, sounds like the federal government. We better behave ourselves. You identify the issues because they don't know. They couldn't care less about sky glow. Nobody cares about sky glow. But written in the municipality, in the bylaws, might be glare. And that's what Ottawa has hinged upon. We're pushing glare. Heck with sky glow. If you have minimized glare, you actually reduce sky glow. And that's something that's already in most municipal bylaws. Light trespass, they'll say for every one person that I can quote that doesn't like light trespass, they can quote 10 that love it. They don't want to, a lot of citizens don't want to light their backyard, but they like to make sure the city lights it for them. And then to talk about the light pollution, breaking the presentation down to all the different possible solutions to all these problems, select a few that seem reasonable with conclusions, and you recommend those, and then you can discuss at length, wax poetic, about the benefits of one type or the other. What I'd like to do is show a few slides that show some of the slides I've got here is this is typical ones we end up using. This Dark Sky Association, you can blow it up a little bit and highlight Eastern Ontario. And with Eastern Ontario, it's hard to. Here's Montreal. Here's Toronto. Toronto. We won't talk about this place. And Ottawa, Eastern Ontario is great. Look at this huge void here. That's wonderful. Well, my observatory is right beneath a little town here called Smiths Falls, which shows up on the satellite shot. And we try, because the lighting in Eastern Ontario isn't that bad. We can't dump on the municipal officials. We just say, isn't this wonderful? This is a wonderful place to live and observe. Let's not let it get any worse. And as long as you're very positive about it, they're rather positive as well. The light pollution, they'd nice to show a slide to show what it looks like in the sky. Dove over actually a small town here in my observatory. White up the west-hand sky, western sky. Bad lights, and of course I made sure that the names are prominently displayed. And the good lights, where this looks very bright, but they're sharp cutoff lights. Light does not go above the horizon. Now admittedly, a lot of light gets scattered off snow and cars and things like that. There's not much you can do about that, so don't even try. They know well enough that there's a lot of light up to maybe 20% reflected off the ground up into the sky. They'll use that during their presentation to say, why should we do any better? And of course, the response is so things don't get any worse. Other examples around, for example, Carleton University, you see the effect of globe lights there. Down here, don't do very well. Then you've got these guys here with their sharp cutoff, and they focus the light down over the stairwell. After taking this picture, somebody bent this so now it shines up in this direction right up to the observatory. Very kind of them. I don't trip over the stairs in the observatory anymore. Different types of lights, because a lot of the people you give a presentation to haven't seen them very closely. This is a standard cobra. The little striations in the light in the lens here is what scatters light. And really, the standard cobra work on scattering light. It's a very random process with very, very little control over it. That's why there's a lot of glare. This is a sharp cutoff light or a flat glass cobra. It looks like a cobra on a diet where somebody took a pop shot at it. But this is actually very good. No light shines above the horizon at zero. Industry called it sharp cutoff. Ministry of Transport of Ontario says, I'm sorry, I haven't read a definition, therefore they don't exist. But they do exist, and all the industry calls it sharp cutoff. There's different types of cutoff. I must be very careful. There's semi-cutoff, which shoots light up to the sky. Don't know why semi is there. There's cutoff, which allows 2.5% above the horizon. There's full cutoff, which is 2% above the horizon. And then there's full cutoff, which is zero. It's really what we're after. So in Ottawa, we're promoting full sharp cutoff lights. Then they say, well, if you don't let the lights spray out, you're going to change the light distribution. Well, here's a picture with, they happen to put what are called semi-cutoff lights all along here, and here's two sharp cutoff lights. And it doesn't affect the lighting footprint significantly. You can measure it, but to your eye, you don't notice a darn thing. And that's really what it's all about. There's really, the Cadillac of sharp cutoff lights can cost around $6,800 a shot. A standard Cobra costs about $150. The only thing good about this is that you can lob off in an installation. And if you have a very hydro, that's between $4,500 to $5,000 in installation. So who cares if you're paying a few $100s more per luminaire? This is a Cadillac. You get them at $350. You can even get some of those sharp, the flat glass Cobras for $25 to $50 above the cost of standard Cobra. So if you've got a line, you can remove one in every 10. It's paid for itself for saving money, and engineers love that. This is the footprint left by this ritzy version of sharp cutoff light. You do get a better uniform distribution, but is it worth the money? Well, a lot of people say no. And the other classic example is visors. Nobody likes visors. Don't try to get the municipal officials to put visors on all the lights. The salesmen don't like visors. The engineers, the maintenance people don't like visors. But for isolated lights, that's really about the only thing you can do. They retrofit, they just snap right on. It costs about $45 to $50 a piece for Cooper or GE lighting type lights. And as for how bright they are, well, here's a standard Cobra, and here's a high pressure sodium here. This is metal halide, not mercury vapor. Really, when you get under them, they provide the same amount of light, except the sharp cutoff light, you don't see at a distance. Here's just an already slide showing that. And here we are, sharp cutoff light down. You get very, very little glare, and all the lights down in the road here, which is fresh asphalt. That's what it will start. To generate the slides, Corel Draw, that's what I use. Any other package probably does this as well, because in most cases, from ID and other places, you just don't get the slides that you really like. So you create them yourself. They really show what's happening. Very hot spot right underneath the luminaire. Poor uniformity. Uniformity is an in thing right now. Whereas if you have sharp cutoff light, which use reflective optics, it actually focuses the light with a flip rate, so you have much more uniform illumination, much broader distribution of light, and that's where you can start losing folds. And that's where you save an awful lot of money. Footprints. This red line is sharp, is a standard Cobra. Can't get much better with that. But this is a factor of 10 down from here. And this is about a factor of 10 down from right underneath the light. So this is 100 times less than 1/100th as bright right underneath the light. So really you're not using that anyway. When you use a visor, essentially you're chopping that off here. But you're not using that anyway. Flat glass, almost as good. If anything, it helps illuminate the sidewalk behind the light. So you don't have to install a sidewalk light, pedestrian light. From different companies, virtually the same, a little more ritzy, better distribution, better control, simply because the mirrors are bigger in the shoebox lights. And here's the standard real rich version, and it's all about the same. But really, they're comparable and offer some benefit along the sidewalk in trying to illuminate the sidewalk. Okay, what I'd like to do is quickly show, now show the videotape here, while I'm here, of the presentation we put on in Ottawa. See if it all comes through. Here we are. And essentially giving it to a mayor of a local city. They have since, we're talking with them even more, and then representatives of 2 layers of government. And again, we get into how we try to get a hook on this. Well, this is the first time that these 3 governments have worked together in producing good lighting along what's called the Hunt Club Road in Ottawa. We have a federal government, National Capital Commission on the left, the regional municipality of Ottawa, Carleton in the middle, and the city of Nepean by that gentleman, Mr. Franklin, and myself. And this was broadcast on television in Ottawa. And that was always nice. It's nice to have contacts in the media. I don't think we need go in and listen to the speeches. So, just to conclude, successes in Eastern Ontario. At the municipal level, we talked to the City of Ottawa, giving presentations then to the cities of Gloucester, Canada, and Nepean, and then the towns of Almonte and Carleton Place outside. Essentially, the towns of Gloucester, Canada, and Nepean form a girdle around Ottawa. Ottawa can't expand anymore except getting brighter. So we wanted to stop the expansion by talking to Gloucester, Canada, and Nepean, also the City of Ottawa, and some of the outlying towns that are going to impact our territory, the town of Almonte and the town of Carleton Place. At the provincial level, we got the regional municipality of Ottawa, Carleton, because they dictate some lighting policy on lands that border on their jurisdiction. And the Ministry of Transport, because we're getting highways built, and the Ministry of Transport of Ontario to select the lights for those highways. And you wouldn't want to have a highway going right by your territory, and then they put in these nasty covers. Also in Ottawa, we've got a federal level of government called the National Capital Commission, and they are also dictating certain lights. So that's my presentation. Yes.
Did you get any help from Ontario Hydro?
Ontario Hydro doesn't have too much of an effect because in all these municipalities you have, for example, Ottawa Hydro, you have Nepean Hydro, Canada Hydro, Gloucester Hydro, which are subsets, but they're almost autonomous. They do whatever they want and they do it the minimum. In fact, they are the ones that essentially want status quo, except once they put them up, the municipality then pays for them. So the municipality, if you talk to the engineers, invariably they're going to bring along one of the hydro counterpart. But, and they're the ones that we seem to get the more rhetoric from. But it's interesting, when you go to a meeting, if you've got facts, you usually end up finding the hydro person comes up with generalities. And the engineers listen to you much better if the municipality, the hydro people say, oh, there's lots of these lights up. You say, well, of the 15,000 you have up, you could probably put the change, you would be probably changing, say about 8,000 in the next 20 years, and you come up with numbers. And that kind of makes people say, oh, they've done their homework. If you've done your homework, then they know that you know what you're talking about. And especially if you've got a professional engineer giving you a presentation, then they know that, or they've got a pretty good chance that you're probably telling the truth. You're not sort of giving bias, because engineers are supposed to be very reputable people. Yes?
Is it possible to get a copy of your presentation?
Yeah, it's always been revised. There's a president, I just put a package that we gave to the city of Ottawa, quite a display in the display room. You can leaf through it. We've got, it's sort of intermediate for politicians and engineers, so there's some material that isn't in that, but we're always adding to it, and that's what keeps the budget line, unfortunately. But there's a lot of phone calls, new products are coming out, prices are changing, and we try to keep that up to date. Yeah.
What's the competitive life have you been able to do that?
We went to, this is not a good example, but it's a nice example anyway. Here I go biasing, right? We gave a presentation in the city of Canada, and they were getting the standard Cobra lights from a particular distributor, and they're paying $650 per luminaire. When we gave our presentation, we had the list of the cost. We first of all found out that you wanted 150 watt high pressure sodium, so we got the price on 150 watt high pressure sodium, sharp cutoffs, and Cobra lights, all these, so we let them in your compare, so it was obvious when we saw the overhead. Well, we then present these numbers, and they say, you obviously don't know what you're talking about, because they cost $650, and you've got I think I had $200, less than $200 on my overhead. And I went back to check with the distributor. The distributor said, they're paying what? So then I faxed back to the municipality, the chief of engineering, saying, these are the distributors perhaps you should talk to. And within about, I think, 3 weeks, they adopted the tariff cutoff in the entire city. Simply because we saved them so much money, and they just felt good about it.
Just to follow, when they install sharp, when they get to the 550 watt overhead, do they sometimes then they go to sharp cutoff, they specify 100 watt?
No. The cost of hydro is important, but in fact in Ottawa, they're very keen on saving energy because of the environment, things like that. It's a bit of history of Ottawa, the politics there, the evolution of politics. But they don't, Ottawa is curious because they actually literally half the illumination levels. So they're actually 1/2 the recommended level. And Ottawa's getting a lot of flack, so they don't want to even hear about removing lights. So you come back, you don't remove the light, you just put the light down where you want it. And because reducing glare, the safety is increased because they want to have a uniformity of about a factor of 3 along the road. And by going to sharp cutoff light, some of these reflective optics, very efficient reflective optics, you can actually get that and have full spacings of 3 or 4, as opposed to full spacings typically of 2 for Cobras. Yes?
Rob, have you found a new career in the lobbyist?
Lobotomies, not lobbyists. Unless the RAC wants to pay, but I don't think so. Certainly our center can't afford all this. But it's a very interesting to talk to these people, and then you can say, by the way, we'll for a certain stipend, we'll do some of this for you, but they don't buy it. Nobody's got any money out there to do this. It's infrastructure, and infrastructure has really been hit badly. And if you can save the money, they'll look at you. If it's going to cost anything more than what they're paying now, they don't even want to listen. Because engineers have already had maybe last year's budget that barely got by, now they got 80%, and they have to do the same stuff, and now you're asking them to put in more expensive stuff, they're not going to listen. They say, I'm sorry, it's impossible. They won't go any farther. But if you can show that they can do it with the same amount or save, then they're a little more receptive, because the engineers we've talked to are really interested in doing a good job. Okay.